Welcome, Hari. Good afternoon. I know this is a, extremely busy time, and I really appreciate you, participating in the ACT webinar. As Anubhav said in the introduction, this is about a collective sharing of learning and knowledge with the full startup ecosystem. And I want to thank you for joining us. But I also want to do a shout out that in this time of lockdown, I know that you and your team, from an essential services perspective, have been working, 24/7 to deliver to us our daily needs. So thank you on behalf of the community for that as well. But just as I know every business leader does crisis planning. And did this kind of a crisis ever occur to you that to plan for?
Never, Vani. Never, not in my 35 years of working. It's absolutely unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented. And the last 3 weeks have been horrendous, actually.
So how are you handling the lockdown personally first? And then we'll talk about work. All of us have a personal life and a professional life. Those are blurring. So how are you handling the lockdown personally?
Personally, Vani, I've had no time, actually, frankly. It's been absolute 3 weeks of, from the time it hit on 22nd March, I still remember. And I didn't think that this is what we're going to get into. I have just not had any time. I had, the one thing I wanted to do in the first part of the lockdown was to pick up my guitar and learn at least 5 new songs. I finally did that day before yesterday. So I pulled it out and I'm starting to use it, but I have had no time. Otherwise, personally, it's been fine. It's just that it's been just work till quite some time, till we got settled. And I think it's got a little easy last few days. And that's how I managed to do what I had to do.
Well, I mean, if you told me before, I would have, ensured you played a small tune for us, because, the lockdown is not just about stress. The lockdown is also about all of us connecting into our inner self. So maybe we'll see. Maybe you'll be willing to do that. But you talked about how there has been no time. So and I know many of the people in this call are probably called upon to play a role that they never envisioned playing. So what is the role of a leader in a time of crisis like this, Hari, from your perspective?
I think there's one single biggest thing. Actually, there are two, and the second point I'll talk about, it's something I've really learned in the last 3 weeks. The first one and the most critical one is communicate. I think that is the most critical thing for a leader to do at this time, is that you need to be speaking with your employees all the time. You need to be speaking to your customers all the time, because there is a different perception the customers are having in terms of what's happening versus what's being perceived. And third is your stakeholders. There is no, if you don't do it, I think you're doing injustice and not doing well as a leader. So that's my single biggest thing. The second thing, Vani, I have learned in the last 3 weeks, and a big learning is, how do you do more with less, right? And frankly, I have learned this across multiple areas, including personal, right?
Yes.
And I have every day realized that this is what I think is a great thing that's happened, because you're now really learning, optimizing. And this is not about sending people home and hence doing more with less. Those are all things that may happen, may not happen. But I'm genuinely talking about innovating, right? Genuinely talking about innovating. And we've just been doing that over the last 3 weeks to figure out, because we've been badly hit. There's a situation where we've got business. We are one of the few industries that have actually got business and have enough and more business, and not enough resources available to actually deliver them. So it couldn't have been a better opportunity to do that. And hence, when you communicate, the important thing that as a leader we need to do is make sure that we work closely with the teams to make sure that we execute on how to do more with less. These are the two things, Vani. One is just communicate. And I've just been sitting and spending time with teams, spending time with customers. First week, I didn't do it. From second week, I said, let me go onto the channels Let me speak to them through them. It's not because we want PR or we want publicity. My whole objective was to tell them what's going on. There's so much angst. There's so much anger. So I had to ease that. So it's all about communication. Communicate, communicate. And second is this thing about how do you work with teams to make sure that we achieve this bit of work of getting more with less.
No, I love the theme of more with less. It's something I'm going to noodle on. Like you said, it's not just at a professional level, it's at a personal level, it's at every level. Call of the universe, more with less, I think is a great theme. Now, there are probably a lot of people, Hari, in this call, elsewhere, wishing, oh, I wish I could be in Hari's shoes because you're in one of the essential services, there is demand. You know, other companies, they're down to zero revenue. And wouldn't it be great in this crisis to really, the crisis be the opportunity, which it is for all the e-commerce companies, especially in the essential services. But I'm sure it has its own challenges. So it would be great for you to talk about, while the crisis is opportunity, then is everything hunky-dory? What are your challenges?
Yes, Vani, and you know, being in my shoes is not a great thing over the last 3 weeks, and I can tell people that. However, we just got our March results. It just came this morning, Vani, and I was so happy to see it. You know, so there are two perspectives to it, right? There are things that is done very well for us, but there are things that we haven't done, you know, very well as far as customers are concerned. So let me come back. Let me just explain, you know, the last 3 weeks. The grocery business, the industry is about $800 billion in size. Okay, $800 billion. The online business all put together was less than 1%.
Yeah.
Right. We have done great numbers. You know, individually numbers all you know, we are $1 billion business or will be $1 billion business. All that is very good, but we are less than 1%. The entire modern trade is 3.5%, 4%.
Yeah.
95% is mom and pop stores, the Kirana stores. What happened on 22nd and 23rd onwards is that the country expected, and people expected, this 1% to become 50% overnight.
Yeah.
1% becoming 50%, which means really from a $1 billion business, you're expected to become $300 billion. Right? I've been explaining this to people and doing this overnight, and everybody knows. If I say these numbers is when people start realizing, oh my God, this is a very, very different thing, because everybody wanted to come online because there was no other choice. Stores were just about opening, they had chat, they were finding their own methods to kind of come back. People couldn't move around, nobody wanted to go out, fear, etc., etc. So that was the challenge we were hit with, Vani. And number two, while we were completely ready and scaled as far as infrastructure was concerned, because we made these investments last year, thank God for it, because we were moving our model from model 1X to model Y to a new model that we are operating on today, which is called 5K. I won't get into that, but because of which we invested heavily into infrastructure. All the money that we raised in our last round was primarily for infrastructure. So that was okay. Thankfully for us, supplies are okay. Our farmers are flushed with produce. Poor farmers, we have 15,000 of them we are working with. They are flushed with produce and they're not able to sell them. 85% of what we sell in fruits and vegetables comes directly from farms. 85%. It's only 15% that we buy from the mandis. So if the mandis shut, we are okay, which is what is happening today. Mandis are shutting because social distancing problems. One of the largest APMC yards shut yesterday in Mumbai because they detected a case there. But that's 8% of what our business comes from that place. So farmers are flushed, no problem. Grains, no problems. Mills are operating, we're getting our supplies. FMCG, touch wood till now, no issues, but I think they will start getting into issues because they're also having people issues, right? So essentially supplies okay, infra okay. Single biggest problem is people. Is that we are currently running at about 60% of capacity as far as people are concerned. But we are delivering at 80% of pre-COVID capacity, which means we are already doing more with less. We have already innovated differently every hour, actually. The teams are working to see how can I get more from these people, right? Without stretching them, without killing them. Poor guys, they're coming there, taking all the risks in life, working. The last thing we want to do is kind of stretch them to work 24 hours. They work within limits, but we get more productive because we've created tools, we've innovated a lot on our feet. So we are operating at 50, 60%. So what happens is every morning your capacity gets set. The traffic that comes in is 8x. The number of people that come in to order is 4x, 3x. Slots shut in 15 minutes. I open the slot in the morning and in 15 to 30 minutes it's shut. Because I have set my capacity based on the people I have.
Yes.
Including productivity improvements. I have factored for all that. But number of people who want to come and order are 4 times that. So slots are shut. Whole day people are seeing closed slots. People celebrate today when they get a big basket slot. It's celebration.
Yes.
It's like a lottery, Vani, right? And I feel so terrible about it. And it's not, I just don't feel good about it. And so there's an opportunity. So we want to get that opportunity. Then we told ourselves, let's not be business-like. Let's say new customers, sorry. Existing customers, open up more slots. Let me serve people who've been with me for a long time. Multiple things like this. But situation is, Vani, that we are constrained for people. As we speak today to meet COVID demand, today, my morning number is 7,720 people. Today, I can hire. Right?
And how many do you have? That's in addition.
Additionally, 7,000. So I have about my normal capacities, my normal COVID days, pre-COVID days, is about 25,000 people. Right? I need about 35,000 people to meet the demand today. So I'm almost there at my pre-COVID level. I need the additional people. Just to give you a sense, pre-COVID, we used to do at peak, a good day would be 150,000 orders a day.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
We are today at 110,000. These are things that I want to communicate to customers, saying we are already there at pre-COVID number. So because people think we are shut money.
Yeah.
And people look at you, you're closed. So these are things which communication helps. And that's the only thing, frankly, as a leader, I've been doing. I've been telling people, listen, let's work hard, but leave this thing to me. Let me just keep speaking to people, talking to them all the time so that I tell people, employees too. So that's the situation, Mani. We're constantly looking out for people. More than 50, 60% of them migrated. So they can't come back because the borders are sealed. There's no transport. The panchayats are not letting them go. The villages are saying, if you go out to the city, we won't let you back.
Yeah.
So we kind of ignored them. We said, leave it, no problem. We'll get you back when the time is right. So to get people who are left over in the city.
Right.
We've been working with partners like NRAI. Restaurants are shut.
Yes.
There are a huge number of people sitting there without work.
Yeah.
We are willing to hire all of them. It's been a little slow because, they don't know how to come out of their homes, because they need a pass. They get a pass only when they join us. So there are these small hiccups that we've been working with and building the capacity slowly. We're also telling them that as to companies, they're your employees. The moment it opens up, they will come back to you. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. So Hari, because there's probably a lot of people in this call that say, okay, but they don't have the same resources as you from experience. And they also need to start planning for a world post-COVID. So now, of course, I don't have a crystal ball. You don't have a crystal ball. So we don't really know what is post-COVID, but it's human nature to plan, and that's core to everything that we do. So what is your guidance and advice on how startups and founders and even people who are worried about employment, how should we plan for a world post-COVID? What's your advice?
Vani, when I was going through your questions last night, and when I came to this question, actually, I still have that answer written to me. And the answer is, I don't know. Right? Frankly. And as you rightly said, I have no clue. There are two things. If it opens up tomorrow, I think we'll get back to normal fast because it's just 3 months, right? So we'll all be back in offices. If it's 3 months later, I don't even know whether we'll go back to office. We'll work from home because we've got all used to what we're doing today. It's not comfort. It's about learning new ways of working. So you will kind of settle down. But Vani, I have only one answer to this. And I think post-COVID, what this will teach us is my favorite mantra of learning to do more with less. It is going to teach us that very, very hard. And that is something that I think I would request everybody to start thinking today. They might be sitting at home, not working. Sadly, things shut. Feel very bad about it. But this is the opportunity to think of what you're going to do. Madura Courts, they've done different things. It's simple, actually. So they shut. So they called me, the CEO called me and said, you know what? We are making Peter England masks. So would you like to so branded masks, branded stuff. So people are innovating, trying to think differently, doing different things.
Yes.
Well, post-COVID, my mantra is, if you invest in time to figure out how you'll innovate and learn to do, because this is what COVID has given us as an opportunity to learn, that you will really benefit.
So I have a leadership question again for you. Of course, many of us are, like, before the event started, we were chatting, and whatever our hardships are, in the macro scheme of life, they are fairly minor. We may be irritated on a particular day that I didn't get my big basket slot or whatever, but on the macro, we really don't have much to complain. So the leadership question for you that I have is, what can people learn from, so your delivery boys, a big section of your team cannot work from home, and they have to put themselves out at great personal risk, and how do you inspire them? It can't be just the paycheck, though of course that's important, and that's enough of a reason for any of us to take risks to work, to put food on the table, but it's something more than that. So what is it that you have been doing to inspire people to work and work more with less, like you said, during these difficult times?
Great question, Mani. Actually, I've been doing this so that I just don't make sure that they are inspired enough to work, but they also communicate this to people who are sitting right now thinking that I will get sops from the government and not coming to work. There are such people too, right?
Yeah.
The whole point is to start sending messages to such people too. So it's about inspiring them. And one of the things that I've been using really, really hard is this whole fact of it being national pride, right?
Yeah.
We made a little video. Amazon came up and said, let's do something together. 3-4 of us, midlife. And we said, let's put it up there. Let's talk to people. They are heroes. So the whole thing is about making them feel like heroes. This happens in our warehouses today, in our delivery boys. The huddles are now not about processes. The huddles about telling them that you are national heroes. My chats with them is about telling them that you're national heroes and you're doing a great, terrific job. That's a single message we are passing on. We're doing everything else, giving them incentives for coming. We are covering them so well for their safety. All of them are COVID insured, right? That's a great thing we achieved, including people who are not on our rolls. And this is the message that's going across to their friends who are sitting out there on the edge, saying, listen, it is safe. Please come back, right? We have no issues. Social distancing norms, trying our best to make sure that it's maintained. We get doctors to our warehouse, to our delivery centers to come and speak to them. The doctors tell them about hygiene. Doctors talk to them about, do's and don'ts. But all that is, to me, things that you would do anyway, right? Most people would do. But the key message from somebody like me to them is that you guys don't realize that you're just like the Jawan, what we call foot soldiers. We actually term them as food soldiers. They're called food soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
That's
and
great.
It's national pride that we are driving, Mani.
Yes. It's interesting, isn't it, Hari, that crisis makes very ordinary people do extraordinary things from courage and from commitment and make heroes out of them. And it's a testament, really, to humanity itself, that when called upon, all of us have an opportunity to rise above what we thought we could do and achieve. So what do you think, what is your kind of takeaway lesson from all of this, from your team, from just crisis handling? What's your biggest takeaway, Hari?
I'm again repeating, Mani. I've got so passionate with that term. Actually, I'm just thinking that I'm going to really talk about it. In every forum that I get within the company, is learned from now on to do from more. Just simple examples, right? We're working from home. We got so comfortable. We've just given up a large floor in our head office, expensive real estate. We suddenly figured that we don't need it. Actually, just because we don't need it, we're not cutting nothing. It's just that you have learned a different way of working, right? Productivity of 50 people is giving us, 2x in terms of, what people can do. It is also causing issues. So for example, instead of doing half an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour slots, we are doing 5 hour slots. In situations like this, customers don't mind. And it's as long as they get their stuff within a reasonable time and they get it in full, they're so happy. So it is a balance between, how much do I take away from a customer versus how much productivity improvement gains I get. And that's the key thing to achieve, right? So Vani, to me, it's, I'm to me, there's one theme I will, that drives me every day. This is the theme that drives me every day. Every morning I wake up and figure out, how do I do with fewer SKUs? Today, I'm managing so beautifully. 35,000 SKUs we used to carry. Today, we are down to 3,000 because you're pushed, because you're essentials, right? At 3,000 SKUs, I do the same turnover that I do earlier. It becomes so much easier for warehouses. So I think back and say, hey, listen, do I really need that long tail? Do I need to? So can I optimize that better?
Yeah.
It is pushing you to think hard, and I think we are utilizing that.
So what is that? You see, look, another way to think about more with less is in the principles of lean manufacturing and other things, of course, that have revolutionized other industries. So from supply chains, especially, fresh supply chains and essential supply chains like you have, what is this lean revolution, so to speak, of doing more with less mean on the supply chain side,
Yeah, it directly impacts the supply chain also. For example, what is happening to all the FMCG partners today? They are actually struggling for people, right?
Yeah.
So what is everybody trying to do? How do I get as lean as I can? And hence, there is an opportunity that the opportunity that everybody has given you to say that, listen, you can only do 4,000 SKUs. So if I just focus on trying becoming as lean as I can, and produce the same numbers, it's just outstanding. And that's what's going to happen actually as you go along. People will start figuring that, listen, I can get leaner and leaner and deliver the same thing. So through the supply chain, this is getting impacted now, right through. I've been talking to all the majors, at the senior level, and everybody's saying, great. What it's done is now I can just produce what you want, Hari, because you're at 3,000. Let's produce lots of that 3,000. And give it to you, right? So that we can maximize, what we're doing, get to the same levels with lesser SKUs, with lesser people, with lesser processes, with lesser equipment, and hence become leaner. It is just going across the supply chain.
Yes. So we have a lot of questions, Hari, but before we go into that, I'm really intrigued by this more is less, and I'll tell you personally. Like you said, it applies at all levels, but in a personal life, I'm sure this is true of everyone in this call. In my own home, we have streamlined everything, how the kitchen works, how our food consumption works. And you talked about SKUs. I think almost all homes are used to multiple SKUs on the table in terms of catering to each person's eating habits. All that is gone to say, and that's not how world worked when I was growing up. Probably you were growing up, just because of how our mothers function. But we have moved away from that to being able to get anything we want, anytime we want. And those habits have changed for maybe the better, because at least I've been far more healthier. So what is the one example of, more for less personal change, if any, you have made? And then we'll go to several questions that are pending for us.
So I personally, on my side, actually, I haven't. I think my wife has obviously done more of that, because there are no maids at home. So you obviously now, with lesser resources, you're able to, keep the house cleaner. Your efficiency, improves. You've learned different things to make sure the house runs better.
Yes.
than what it used to be, because you get somebody's there doing stuff for you, so all the time. So you get complacent maybe sometimes, but I think at all levels, personally also, the needs have come down. You're just enjoying it actually. Yes. And it's not that you're pained. It's just so much more fun when you realize that with just 2 dishes, you're enjoying it more than having to have 5 dishes on the table. More wastage, more things to manage, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Funny. It's like I'm going to write a little bit about this when post-COVID on this theme.
So I already know the title of your book, right? More for less, or in something like that. So I think it'll be a great book. We'll all look forward to reading it. Now, some of the questions from the audience is a little bit different, but I think it's something that we keep hearing from in other forums also. So one question is, what would you advise entrepreneurs who just started their ventures or planning to start? What should they do? Should they start or hold back? What should they do, Hari?
I think Hari just dropped off. We'll just wait for him to rejoin.
Okay, all right. What we can, I think he just joined. So,
Sorry,
Hari?
Vani, I dropped out. Yeah, I'm there.
You need to rotate. Okay, great. So we, the one question that came up repeatedly is, what's your advice to entrepreneurs who have recently started or planning to start their venture? If you were starting a new venture today, would you start? Would you just stick to your job and wait for a better time? What's your advice to entrepreneurs who wants to start now?
Vani, I would wait because,
Yeah.
To me, I've said this before, Vani, in your case start, I think before, that all said and done, capital is critical when you start.
Yeah.
You cannot, you can't do without it. You'll struggle, and it's not going to be easy for the next few months. It's not going to be easy. So I would sincerely advise to put on hold right now, innovate, think, but continue with your jobs. It's so critical to keep your earnings going.
Yeah.
Keep your savings going. One of the things about do more with less is about how do you make money last, right? Every bit of money that you have today, you got to make it last. You've got to make it last. And hence, I would recommend hold on till till it gets a little more better and the investment community is a little more clearer. And I don't blame them because there's so much of uncertainty. Grocery, a segment like this, will capacity get built? Won't it get built? There'll be so many questions in everybody's mind, right? Including a sector that's supposedly doing well. So I would say wait.
And in the same continuum, another question, but if you've already raised capital and you have some capital with you, what are some of the operational and financial controls that a young startup should consider during this crisis to sustain themselves since they've already started?
Yeah, I think you just need to cut back on everything that's non-essential. Everything that's non-essential, you need to cut back right now. You can't afford luxury. You can't afford any of that bit. And hence, whatever you have, if you had planned it to run 6 months, make sure it runs 12 months, 14, 15 months. If you had 1 year, make sure it runs for 12 months. That's the only thing they should focus on doing and innovate there. See how you can bring in productivity increases. See if you're running as a company. If you're not, then it's a problem, right? I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
I really don't know, how such people are managing because I'm going to reach out to a few of them, soon because I was really stuck myself. Is to figure out what are people doing, how are people thinking. But I think the only thing to do is to conserve right now.
Yeah.
The only thing to do is to communicate.
Yeah. So the other question is, do you expect valuations to go up post this crisis and post lockdown, which is always a favorite question for people? I know you and I have a philosophy around valuations, but let's answer this question because it has come up so many times.
Yeah, I don't think it will go up. I think people should brace themselves for the fact that, they would do rounds which are similar. They would do rounds which may be down. We don't know. The expectations on getting better valuations for some time to come, I think, won't happen. And I think that's the expectation. And my view on this, it's a mythical thing. For me, it's a number. We've never gone after it. And I request people don't worry too much about it because finally it's all about raising the right amount of capital. You might lose here and there, but I don't expect that. Don't chase valuations today.
Yeah. So what is how do you think about long-term strategic impact to your business versus simply the tactical adjustments right now? And the question says, would you foresee totally contactless deliveries or people cooking more at home, and hence you need to plan strategically to service new opportunities that might emerge because of this adjustment that has happened?
Yeah. So we see some changes, Vani, good question. We first, for example, we are very, very excited about this about this community, service that we're doing. And what that means is we've got now just launched a new service called the Residents Welfare Association Service. We call it the RWA, we call it community. There are multiple ways things people call. And that is that the community orders as one customer, right? We see this as something that's going to remain. Strategically, there's a big shift. So for us, what does it mean? A delivery boy goes there thrice a week to that whole complex. Otherwise, the delivery boy goes there 6 times a day versus going 3 times a week. It changes the game for us.
Yes.
And from a customer perspective, everybody is ordering together. There is a segregation method. It's technology enabled. It will get better and better, and people get served, right? So that same van is not having to come, so many times in that building. That's one. We were also encouraging people to order in groups. We are seeing that shift happening, and we will see that benefiting us, benefiting everybody. All these are complete win-win. We see contactless becoming large. We see people saying, now just leave it outside. And we already saw this in the milk service business, right? Because that's contactless. It was contactless from day one. That business actually, from a number of orders, scaled faster than BB. It's bigger than BB today in terms of bigger than Big Basket, which is our BB daily. So that's scaled, and that's completely contactless. You just leave the stuff outside and go, right? So that's the third. So we'll see community stuff. We'll see contactless. We'll see group buying behaviors. That will happen. We will see people, trying to not fuss too much about speed of delivery, right? It will start becoming, quality of delivery, the fact that you'll deliver me well and come in less frequent things, because I can then stock up just the right amounts, will start happening. So you will see a lot of investments that people are making earlier and losing money on trying to deliver fast may get eased out. And the last point I see, Vani, is that the health of the business will be good, because I think one thing that people start realizing is that discounting is not the way to go. And that this COVID is teaching us so nicely that, that customers are not really necessarily, but because of situation, but I think it will continue. It is making the businesses healthier, and the businesses will hopefully continue like that, and not just blindly discount and not acquire customers blindly.
Yeah, that's something definitely in India we have needed to build businesses that are sustainable and long-term versus simply buying the business, which can't last, and we can't build an industry that way. And another question, Hari, that's come up is, what, if anything, have you learned from China in this crisis so you could quickly adapt to India? Is that even relevant?
Yeah, the only thing relevant was that I think they scaled their grocery businesses quite well, and they did it very differently. For example, they even used things like transport buses to deliver at that point in time, right? They were doing all kinds of things. They were keeping people within their warehouses, at that point to deliver. Small things, few things. I think we have innovated better. Actually, we've done a lot more things that we find our Chinese partners. We just had a call last week, Mani, thanks to Alibaba, where we tried to pick up a few things. Just that the fact that they're opening up right now, what happened when they were completely shut. But just a few of these things, nothing significant, nothing great. It's just that their scale was different, right? Always different. So obviously they, those businesses grew, and they were able to kind of find different ways of delivering, which we are also getting there now. Nothing
major, nothing breakthrough.
No.
So is there an opportunity, do you believe, to crowdfund human resources? This question asks. I'm not sure I entirely understand the question, but I'll give it to you in case you know how to answer it.
I haven't got that yet, but I think it's about trying to get people, I guess, from different industries. I'm not too clear actually. I'm trying to guess, but maybe I should ask.
Yeah, whoever posted that question, maybe can post a question a little more clearly if you want Hari to answer, and I'll see if I can take it back to him. Another question, Hari, is are you planning on acquiring any companies during this crisis? Do you see this as an opportunity to monopolize and consolidate? That's the question. And in fact, the question says, are we heading where only a few major players control the entire market? That's the question.
No. I think one shouldn't ever stop looking at acquisitions. If there are good acquisitions and you can afford the acquisition and you can do it, you must do it. So we would be very open actually to look at areas. We've not been great M&A people. It's not that we've been seeking people, companies left, right, and center. We've done very few, and we will continue to keep seeking opportunities for sure. And that's something that we won't want to stop. Why would we want to stop? Especially if there are opportunities to do it in ways that it conserves cash. If you do it in ways which are more stock driven, etc., and there is value that is going to add, I think we will continue to look at it. Certainly.
Another question, Hari, is post-COVID, will consumers adapt to new behavior, or will they go back to their status quo? And so how will be the shift between online adoption to offline transactions that exist today?
I think there will be a shift. I think we are sure about it. There will be a shift to online, and within online itself, there would be different buying behaviors, which is what I told you. Community buying will become a norm. It helps everybody, right? You just don't keep coming to my house and knocking my door every few days. Instead, if I just bring it all to the community and we have great ways using tech to segregate them and get them home, you'll get done. Group buying will become a stuff. People won't be looking at such urgent deliveries. People will be willing to wait as long as you give them everything that they want. There will be behavioral change. The only thing I'm trying to figure is contactless versus COD, cash on delivery. That I don't have a sense on it, Vani, right now. But just like demonetization, we felt that people might shift to digital, but that didn't happen. People just bounced back, and cash was king. Continue to be king. Right now we are 100% digital. We are zero on cash. We don't have COD. We have removed it completely because we don't want any contact, because cash is contact. Cash, the notes are contact. Right?
Yes.
Then giving change, and so we tried that in the beginning where we gave covers where people could put money inside the cover. We used to hold it like that. It wasn't very effective. People just felt that contactless. So it's 100% digital today, unlike Demon.
Yeah.
So where will that land is the only thing that I don't have a sense on. But I think community buying, group buying, all these things will remain.
Yeah. So I have two last questions I'm going to post for you, Hari. One of the questions says, "Hi, Hari, my question. I'm entrepreneur and we sell our products on BigBasket. We are a healthy food brand. Our business is shut. We are using this time and planning. One of the plan is to launch newer products post-COVID, plant-based food. Do you think we are thinking right?"
Yes, you're thinking right. Absolutely innovate on products today. Just like what I talked about Madura, right? They're trying to see what new things they can do. Maybe it will survive after COVID. There is a company called MyGlam, which I think is a Bessemer funded company, which is in the beauty space. They make products, beauty products. That business has come to a grinding halt. They've shifted now to making wipes, making sanitizers, and different things. So innovate on those products. And I think that's the time you got to use right now, is spend time on R&D, so that when COVID is done, you'll be up and running. I also want to tell these companies that I think the government is starting to open up categories now, wherein they're trying to define what essentials, expand that base a little bit, right? And I think so I just want to tell such companies that we will be back very soon with them.
Yeah. Then the last question, Hari, is there an opportunity for startups to collaborate with BigBasket and contribute in this crisis time? And is there a platform at BigBasket for other startups to contribute?
Contribute, is it to the cause, needy stuff and all that? For example, we run a CSR microsite, right? So where we take donations and from our customers, we do equal matching and stuff like that. So right now we are working with only one of them, which is K Ganesh's Feed Bangalore, Feed Hyderabad, Feed Mumbai, that project, wherein we're getting our customers to contribute and donate. But otherwise,
my guess is this question is probably not as much. Yeah, my guess is this is donation. Less. It's about how can I work with you if I'm a startup, so my business can also thrive. That's how I interpret this question.
Yeah. So for example, there are a lot of these cab startups, right? There are a lot of these bike startups. We are collaborating with all of them. Yeah. We have 57 different collaborations right now as we speak, right? Whom we are working with. People who can come contribute to us by working with us, joining us to deliver, to work warehouses, give us your employees, give us your manpower. We will give them back to you. Same thing that I said. We have 57 partnerships today that are live, working with. So Bounce came back and said, not just bikes, but Bounce said there are 200 technicians who work for Bounce.
Yeah.
Technicians. They're jobless.
Yeah.
Said, fantastic. Give them bikes. They will deliver for us.
Yeah.
Very different way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Red Bus came to us and said, we will transport people for you if you want with social distancing norms. So we said, great. We would love to collaborate. Uber, everybody knows it was public that we're working closely with them. Their drivers are delivering. There are a set of about 80 drivers in Bangalore who are ex-Meru, who people contact to drop to the airport.
Yeah.
We have tied up with all of them. There are a bunch of women drivers in Delhi. There are about 300 of them. We've tied up with them. So sorry, I missed the question, but we are more than open. We are waiting for people to come and work with us because we would provide employment and jobs to them.
And Hari, it's okay for people here to reach out to you. Of course, you'll respond if appropriate.
Yes.
Great. So you heard from Hari that, and I've always found him to be a great mentor for entrepreneurs, truly, genuinely supporting the entire startup ecosystem and working from his heart. All of you also, I think, clearly saw that and took that away. I think there are many learnings here, but the biggest one in our personal lives, professional lives, is how do we do more with less. And on that note, Hari, thank you so much for taking this time and spending it with us this